In this video, we're going to talk about your second essay for the semester, the informational essay. You might want to take note that as you go through college, and you might want to take note as you're writing a paragraph on this genre for your reflection letter, that an informational essay is also sometimes called an informative essay. It's sometimes called an expert essay. It's sometimes called a survey essay. If you see any of those things, this is what we're dealing with here. Because it is basically a series of summaries from experts. That's the basic. I'm not going to read all this to you. You can go back and read through it. But that's the basic heart of it. For this essay, your topic is going to be the connections between our use of language and our sense of identity. So you'll have a series of authors who you will be assigned to read. Some of them you'll read and do double entry journals. Some of them you will read and take quizzes. Top of the list here is Gloria Anzaldúa, How to Tame a Wild Tongue. She writes about what it means to her to be a Chicana and how that forms her identity. Tania Barrientos, on the other hand, writes about the fact that she never learned how to speak Spanish, and what does that mean for her identity when she would like to consider herself Hispanic, Latina, and she doesn't speak the language. Ryan Bloom steps in to tell you that as much as we would like to think no one is going to judge us by the way we speak, or we shouldn't judge people by the way they speak, people will judge you by the way you speak. Michaela Cullington is looking at texting and writing. You may have heard from teachers over time that texting too much will sneak into your academic writing. She finds to the contrary. Richard Rodriguez is again looking at a Hispanic identity, Hispanic language use. He argues that it's really a good thing to have a home language, which for him is Spanish, and a public language, which for him is English, and to keep those two things separate. Gloria Anzaldúa, on the other hand, wants to say, I could speak the way I want to speak wherever I go. Then we have Amy Tan, writing in mother tongue. Her first language was Chinese, and she finds herself speaking sort of a patois, a combination of English and Chinese, and then she speaks really formal English in other situations, and what that means to her and how she feels about herself. Last but not least, you'll read an article by Molly Worthen, You Can't Talk to Your Professor Like This. Again, looking at formal versus informal language use, and whether or not text abbreviations sneak into our formal language use. When you go to write your essay, you are going to need to have a focus. Why are you summarizing from these particular experts? What are they experts in? So you need a focus for your essay. Some possible foci. You might look at the kinds of judgments or prejudices or opinions that people form about people based on their language use. You might look at how language use affects our self-image, or how language use is connected with culture. You might look at how our first language connects with our identity. You might look at You might look at this question of a home private language versus a public language, and is that a good idea, yes or no? You might look at formal versus informal writing. Whatever you choose to focus on, you're going to read those essays. I would recommend you read those essays first. You will write pointed summaries of those essays. This genre has a particular paragraph structure that identifies the genre. This paragraph structure says the first sentence in a body paragraph is a context sentence. It tells us what part of your bigger topic you're going to look at with this author. Then in the next couple sentences, you identify the expert you're going to summarize, and you tell us what piece of their writing you're going to summarize. Then you give us their pointed summary. What do they say about the topic that you've chosen? And then the end of that paragraph gives something of your opinion, your idea on what that author had to say. Do you think they're being reasonable? Do they have good ideas? Do you agree with them or not? Do they have good ideas or not? Once you pull all that together, you're going to write a 3 to 4 page essay. It does need to be standard essay structure. So you've got an introduction with your thesis as the last sentence. Then you've got at least 3 of the essays that look at your topic. Then you have a conclusion where you tell us, now that we have heard from these experts, what have we learned about the topic that you've chosen to write about? If you have any questions, let me know. Send me an email.